Welcome to another edition of Breeding to Win. With the Cape Premier yearling sales fast approaching, it was appropriate that we caught up with Charles Rwizi, who's of course an auctioneer and racehorse owner here in Cape Town. Charles Rwizi is a familiar face on the rostrum at the Cape Thoroughbred sales recently, and he's taken some time to chat to me this morning about his role and how he came to South Africa. Charles, thank you very much for coming through this afternoon to chat to us.
Morning, Fee. Great to have me here.
Now tell us about how it all started, because you have become a familiar face on the rostrum now for Cape Thoroughbred sales. Have you been auctioneering for many years?
Yes, I would like to say quite a couple of years, maybe 2 decades. So initially what started off as a ticket marker. I was brought into auctioneering by Peter Lovemore, the late Peter Lovemore, and Brian Makwabarara. I worked for them for many years. Obviously in Zimbabwe there's not a specific auction school, so what they do, they just take you along the chants, your numbering, your voice control, getting your tongue over numbers and around figures. And yeah, it started there, and then eventually I just started getting myself into bigger spaces with regards to cattle, with regards to horse auctions, and then more specifically household disposals and a bit of real estate.
Well, back in those days in Zimbabwe, were you already getting the bug for horse racing?
Yes, I must say yes. It was twice a month, they would race in the corridor. And having worked for Peter Lovemore and Brian, it was inevitable. You know, you go across the race course. I remember those days, it was days of Stay Alert, Circle the Sun, Reflected Dancing. And also I have a couple of friends of mine, Kirk Swanson, he trains, I was in school with him. And I did try to go for a commentator position, but then they just fell through. And then from there, yeah, I just followed horse racing, specifically the OK Grand Challenge and the Castle Tankard.
Well, you certainly got the voice for it. You said you wanted to get into that side of things on the racehorsing side, but here you've certainly got the voice, and we're getting used to you on the rostrum. Are you enjoying what you're doing here in Cape Town?
Oh, it's been lovely. It's been lovely. Like I said, when I came here in 2007, the opportunities were far and few between. So being like any other foreigner, I started in hospitality, and then I bumped into John Freeman at the restaurant, serving him sushi. And he came there quite often, and he asked me what it is that I really did. And I told him I've done auctioneering and I've been involved with horse racing. I'd never heard of John Freeman. And yeah, Murphy's Law, he just told me, okay, fine, this is 2013, I think. He then introduced me to Amanda, who was then at CTS. And then I started bit spotting. 2013, I think, the Durbanville sale. And yeah, from there we just carried on. And then I also got to use a lot of the trainers, but more specifically Brian Finch. He took a liking to me, and then he asked me why, if I'm an auctioneer, why aren't you selling? And I told him I don't know what needs to be done or what has to be done. Then he passed me on to John Costa, who then took me to Klavervlei. And that's where my auctioneering into thoroughbreds or into horses actually took off. He gave me a few lots. Grant Knowles was involved. And then Andrew Miller, he just took me under his tutelage. And everything I need to know about thoroughbreds, pedigree, Andrew Miller has just passed it down to me.
You certainly bumped into all the right connections, but now you have got the bug for racing because you've got quite a few horses in training as well. Definitely.
You know, 2 years ago, I think to the day, I think 30 November, that was my very first horse that I owned in South Africa as a share, Captain's Flow. She won on debut. And then subsequent to that, I've had a couple of the shares with trainers all across Cape Town. And more recently, we've had one with the JC Fisa at Fairview, who's just been placed. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. Obviously, I didn't think I could afford to race, but now with all these shares coming up, and it's a very good initiative what the people are doing, bring up the syndicates together. So what then happens is I can go in at 10%, which isn't as much as a sole owner, and still get to enjoy the races, the fun, the camaraderie. And I must say, this kind of fraternity is an amazing crowd.
Well, over a short space of time, you've obviously done an awful lot on the racecourse and in the sales ring, and it's exciting times ahead because hopefully we're going to get more and more people back at sales, and we've got the big yearling sales to look forward to at the beginning of next year.
Great times ahead. It was the last 18 months have been tough for all industries, but things are looking great. And obviously with the initiatives, the stakes going up and punters going back onto the course, you know, that whole feel of punters being there, the whole crowd. You know, a year ago we didn't have that. It was just owners and trainers. So it's good times ahead.
Yeah, and how do you feel the online auctions have been? Because it's been quite tough not having people at the sales, but it's worked well, hasn't it?
No, definitely. I actually enjoy that. It gives everyone the opportunity. You know, there's some people who can't necessarily travel and spend the whole day. I mean, it's literally a weekend. You know, you do your viewing, then some play golf and all. But it gives an opportunity for everyone else to participate, not just local buyers, even international buyers. I mean, Meerkat just come to the party, and it helps us, the auctioneers, as well. You know, you get more a pool of buyers that are willing to buy into South African racing.
And with big sales coming up, how soon do you start your prep? As soon as you get the catalogue, do you start looking at pedigrees, you start looking at racing results?
Yes.
You need to know your stuff when you're on the roster.
No, definitely. I mean, as soon as the catalogue is out, whether it's gone to print or whether it's in a digital form, you start looking at it. And obviously you don't get your allocated lots then. But I like to go through the whole catalogue. You know, there's some names that come to the fore straight up. You know, if Irat, he's done enormously well as a sire. So you look at what's happening there, and there's always names that always come up, and you go through the catalogue, and then a month before the sale, or maybe a couple of weeks, you start going around to the studs, and you start seeing what the preparations have been done there, and then maybe a week to the sale, you go there physically. And what I generally like to do is I like to point out a few of the pros in the game. You know, you walk with Jane Thomas, Johan Malherbe, you walk with Mr. Snaith, you walk with Mr. Bass. I mean, they can tell you a few things, what they look for in a horse, you know, and all the breeders are very, very forthcoming. They'll tell you what it is they want to know about the horse and what they feel is worth speaking about. So it's always good, and the preparation is the same, big or small sale. You go there, you speak to breeders, you look at the horse, watch it walk, watch it stand, you look at the girth, the depth, what you feel, is it a stay, is it a sprinter? So all those things, and you just jot down your little notes, coupled with the updates that you will get on a weekly basis. Then I also can always highlight if a brother or sister of that horse I'm selling has been a winner or has placed, and that's always encouraging to the buyers. You know, that's always something they want to know.
Well, it's not just about being an auctioneer then, you're sort of a bit of a salesman while you're up there on the rostrum as well.
Definitely.
Just tell me, between you auctioneers, is there a little bit of a competition as to who's going to sell the top lot on the day?
We never know. We never know. I think maybe a couple of days before auction, you can kind of like see the interest in, I mean, for example, someone comes from Mother Russia and Another Russia, people are always going to be interested. But the competition doesn't really kick in there. It's only at the end of the day when you realize who got the top lot. You know, as an auctioneer, I'd like to say that's your stage. You know, when you're there, it's you and you alone. So you're oblivious to what's happening either side of you. You're just so focused on the podium and your buyers and your online platform. So at the end of the day, when they realize you sold a horse for $1 million or 500,000, you're like, oh, was that me? You know, so the competition is there. But I mean, obviously learning, brushing off from Andrew Miller and I watch a lot of auctioneers, especially Australian. And my favorite, obviously, John O'Kelly. He's always good to listen to. Steve Davis and all them. So what then happens, it's not really a competition. You just try and give it your best shot, try not miss a bid, and get the highest price possible.
But it must be a great feeling when you do sell one for big bucks.
No, definitely. It's probably the same feeling as getting a winner on race day.
So you said you've been in the country since 2007, 2008. You've obviously settled here, and you've got a lovely family as well. Yeah,
unfortunately, my wife passed away a year ago, but I'm a single father to 4 lovely kids, 2-step and 2 of our own. And yeah, it's family life in Cape Town specifically is a bit more relaxed. You know, there's no hustle and bustle. People talk of this hustling and everything. You do your work worth, and you get paid for it.
Yeah, I'm sure you found we're quite a close-knit industry here in Cape Town, and you do get that opportunity to mix and mingle and be around your horses and go to stables and do all those things.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the updates you get from whether it's the trainers or other owners is phenomenal. You know, I mean, literally, if the horse limps, and you get to know it in the morning, and you're always free to go out to the stables Saturday morning, have a cup of tea, midweek. It's the starts that I dread. You know, these guys wake up at 5 o'clock. Kudos to them. They're up at 5 in the morning, and we only just tossing and turning in bed.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, it's really good to have you in Cape Town. I'm glad the bug has bitten and you'll be staying, and we look forward to seeing you in the sales ring and on the racecourse. But thank you very much, Charlie, for taking the time to chat to us.
No, thank you very much, Fee, and thanks so much for having me.
Dean Alexander recently left our shores and started a new career in Australia. He's already got off the mark with a winner, and Julie Alexander caught up with him.
Well, it's great to catch up with my brothers, Gary and Dean Alexander, since they've immigrated to South Australia. Gary, Dean, thanks for joining us on the Breeding to Win show.
It's good to be back on the show, Julie. It's been a long time.
It has. And Dean, I know that it's been a little bit of a tough transition since you packed everything up, sold everything, and relocated to South Australia, Adelaide.
No, Julie, really not something that's quite easy to do, and very difficult. Very difficult to leave South Africa. Lovely country, hard place to leave, but yeah, we're here, and it's been this big opportunity for us, and racing's very good, yeah. We trying to get things going, get up and running. So it's a process, but it's been tough.
Gary, just to quickly touch on your first winner there, we are going to go into it a little bit more in detail later on, but you were only there 5 months, and at your second outing, you cracked your first winner.
Yeah, Julie, you know, we arrived here, we had a quarantine, and like Dean said, it was a long process. But Dean and I wanted to get our families and our kids settled in schools and in homes and rentals first. And then we started to put the package and our team together. So, you know, it's actually a shorter period, but we were very lucky. We started to do quite a bit of work on the online auctions. And, you know, we had to sort of look and spend quite a lot of time watching videos, watching races, looking for the type of horse that would suit us, looking for a little bit of an angle where we could improve on 1 or 2 horses, not knowing too much of their soundness as well. And we couldn't travel at the same time to go up and see these horses. So we were very lucky to get a horse like Raisin Force. He was the first horse that we purchased, him and Pig and Mud. And just very, very lucky. And we've got to thank God for all the blessings he's given us. It's really, he's been with us throughout this journey.
Not very, it's not your style though, to buy online. So it must have been a huge adjustment for you to do that.
I've learned a lot. But you know, in this game, you never stop learning, and I think it's been great because I'm starting to read races a lot better. I thought I could read a race back home quite well, but you start to learn and look for different things that you wouldn't look for in a normal race, Julie. So it's been very interesting.
Dean, just going back to the start, obviously you guys had to go in quarantine as you landed in Adelaide. And that on its own, being locked up away from everybody and being isolated for 2 weeks, I don't think was too much fun.
Testing, very testing and challenging time. But yeah, listen, we got through it. No, it's tough. It's tough. It's not easy. As anybody that's done it will tell you. But yeah, look, I mean, it's just something you had to do. So you've got an option. You just got to do it and get through it. But yeah, it was great. That day we got out of quarantine and we got out onto the streets of Adelaide. It was like, oh, you know, it was a fantastic day. But yeah, it's tough, Julie. No, you know, I think the way they do things, yeah, it's different, but it's very disciplined. And you know, you just got to adhere to what the rules are and just stick by them and just play the game. You know, you can't, there's no other way to do it.
Just looking at the racing rules, are they very different to South Africa?
Not really. I think very similar. I think it's very similar to South Africa.
Yeah, they would be the same, but they you know, like would have different rules in Durban compared to Cape Town and Johannesburg. You know, your provincial rules would be a little bit different. So it's the same over here. But you know, South African racing is great. I must be honest, we've got our trainers can be very proud what they produce back home, and our jockeys. I mean, it's such a good grounding for any person that goes through the ranks in South Africa. They really set a high standard, and you know, to come over here and to start is not easy, but we're not out of place over here. Let me put it to you that way, Julie. You know, I don't find the challenge that great. As you know, when you look at it, it's, yes, it is. It's very big, but when you're actually in it and you we've got a very good grounding back in South Africa. So when you come over here, we'll hold our own. And that's how I felt from the beginning. You know, when I walked onto the tracks and I saw the horses and I just got the feeling of it, I said to myself, you know, I'm not too far out of my depth over here. And I mean, we've got a lot to do and a lot to grow and a lot to learn over here. It's still not easy, but I think with the right horses and if we get the support behind us and it's all about horses, Julie. I can't train one winner if I haven't got a horse, and a jockey can't ride a winner if he hasn't got a horse underneath him. And that's how I feel. So if we do get support, it's all about support and how well we get supported. I think we'll hold our own.
Just going back to your basics, Gary, because obviously the training techniques, the tracks, all very different. So you've had to really adjust your training. Has that been easy for you?
Julie, everything from the food, to the horses, to the style, to the way they work with the horses over here, the strappers. We had to do a lot of our own work. Dean and I were leading horses, marking out boxes, which is fine. It's just taken us back to when we first started. But you know, having done that back at home and having that experience behind us, it wasn't hard. But those little things makes a big difference.
Julie, the big problem here is staff, big staff shortages, big shortage of work riders here. So very difficult to get staff, and so you do a lot of things on your own. You just got to get in there and do it. You know, you've got no other option, and so that in the beginning was very tough. So yeah, so slowly you break through and you get this and that one. So, but it's a process. Yeah, and like Gary says, I think, you know, we can be very proud of ourselves in South Africa and the standard the South African racing scene has. You know, it's a good grounding for anybody that's coming up through the South African system.
Let's chat about Brazen Force, because he was your first purchase. He only had the one start before going into his second outing for you, Gary. And going from start to finish, I know Barent rode a pearl of a race and got up on the line. I mean, for you, that must have been, or for both of you, that must have been a huge moment.
Yeah, it's big. We've got to thank Barent Foster. He's helped us along the way. He's sort of guided us on a bit of when he comes to us once a week to ride work, and because he's up in the Barossa Valley and he's stable jockey to Tony McAvoy. So he comes through once a week, and you know, he's sort of guided us a little bit, but you need that. You need it's all about teamwork. And he started to work quite well, and he had the one run underneath him, which was too short for him. And the reason why I bought Brazen Force is because his last start in his previous yard, he ran second, just got beat, a short head, but he had blinkers on him, Julie, and he was just pulling so hard from the jump. He never laid down one bit. And you can see even when he won, he gave Barent a hard time. He was pulling. And he done so much with the blinkers that, oh, this horse is it's going to lie down in the last 300. And he just kept on rolling. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to buy him. And of course, I think he's going to be a nice sort in time to come. I think there's a few races that we've got lined up for him. And if he improves like we think he will, I think he'll be competitive.
Now,
but it was great. It was great just to have that first win behind for the team and to do it in such a short time. You know, I think hats off to the team. We've got a nice little team that we've built up. But Barent he rode a pearl of a race.
You did mention that you need the support, and you managed to syndicate him after his first run with you guys. And how did that happen? Because, I mean, you're pretty much in a city where you don't know too many people.
So Joel, it's all networking. I mean, you know, obviously before we left South Africa, we started to chat to a few people and get a bit of interest going. And obviously a lot of people were skeptical, and then there were those people that said they would be behind us and try and support us, which they did. And we've got to be very grateful for them for that. And Yeah, so it's a yeah. Look, we'll just have to see. I mean, we have got other horses that we've bought and that we're busy training up now that we will syndicate and that will come on. The shares will come on the market. But so yeah, that's the idea. You know, we're trying to get people into horses that are going to be that will already be up and running and racing, and give them a chance to get in at the right time and just enjoy the racing with us. So it's a whole fun aspect of it.
And it's nice to see
yeah.
1 or 2 South Africans still supporting you.
Oh, yes. It is actually very grateful. Lawrence Jonas, you know, he didn't hesitate when we found him and we asked him, which was great. It was fantastic. And yeah, so we've got other few South Africans that have come into other horses, which is great. And they just keep building and see how we go. But there have been some, after the first one in Australia, because it was a metro winner, which is a big thing over here. You know, you got your provincial and your country tracks, and then you got your metro tracks. And it's not easy to have a metro winner. It's tough at that level over here. So when you to win a metro race in our second runner was a big thing.
And I got it. It was nice to give Lawrence and Jared, and of course Tessa, their first win in Australia. You know, I did phone Lawrence and I said, listen, I'll try and be with this because this horse has got a big chance in his next start, and we'd like you to be with us. So I'm glad he came to the party.
Okay, so you're sitting with 11 horses. Not bad for arriving there with nothing. And you'll be going into December. I know I set a target for you with 10. And I said, guys, if you've made 10 by the end of December, I think you've done well. So you've broken that, obviously, to try and show me, okay, well, we're not so bad, Jules.
The whole idea is by the time you get to Murray Bridge, you've got to try and be up to about 30. You know, firstly, to be competitive, yeah, and the second thing is to earn a living. You know, anything under that, it's tough because you need the numbers. You know, the margins aren't big, as most trainers will tell you, and you need winners and you need runners. So to make a living. So we've got to get our numbers up, and it's the name of the game.
Well, talking about Murray Bridge, I know you guys were originally supposed to move into the stables as you arrived. That obviously hasn't happened. So when will you be able to move into Murray Bridge?
Well, Julie, they reckon by April we should be in there now. They had a setback because of COVID with the council approving all the plans and all that type of thing. Obviously, you know, COVID's affected everybody, and it's an international problem, and it was a setback. And yeah, but they over that now, and the work will start, and so that's going to be a beautiful training centre. The government are throwing a lot of money into racing now, which is, you know, it's really fantastic, and it's great when the government supports racing, because that's a big factor for, I think, any racing industries, when you've got the government behind it. And yeah, so that's the one big thing about Australia. The government does get in behind and support racing in a lot of the states, and that's why the stakes in it are so high, and racing is very buoyant here. So yeah, Murray Bridge should be very good. A lot of money, a lot of investment there. So the training facilities are really good. The training tracks are very good. The race course itself is lovely. So it should be a very good setup there.
Talking about the stakes, Dean, compared to training fees in Australia?
Oh, George, very good. Stakes are good, yeah. I mean, okay, in South Australia, they're not as big as in Victoria and New South Wales, which are, you know, New South Wales is great. But in saying that, it's still very, very good, you know. So I would say you win a race, probably keep horse for about 8 to 10 months. Which is good. You know, there may be more. It just depends on the that shit would be here in South Australia, but in other places like. But I mean, there's the great thing. Yeah, I mean, there's so many group races that are huge stake money. I mean, in the different states. So if you really get a nice horse show and he's at that level, you know, you can really. I mean, for the owners, it's amazing what type of stakes these horses are earning over there.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of youth involved in racing as well in Australia.
Absolutely.
That enjoy their racing.
Absolutely. You know, over here you talk to people and they all know something about racing. And and you get a lot of youngsters at the racecourse, they've got the champagne gardens and they have these different types of things at the races for these youngsters, and they come in on a Saturday and they have a great time. And a lot of them have got shares in these syndicates and with different trainers, and they just love it and enjoy it and have a lot of fun.
So obviously syndication is something that you guys have built up here in South Africa, and it's something that you're going to continue doing in Adelaide. Obviously the horses that you've got already have been syndicated, and I know the ones that you haven't brought up yet that are going to be racing soon, you know, like as Gary mentioned, you're going to be looking to syndicate. Are you going to be putting your feelers out there for the South African market at all?
Oh, absolutely, Julie. Definitely. It'd be lovely to have South African owners, you know, taking a share with us in Australian racing. And it'd be lovely to get, hopefully in time, I don't know what the protocols, but it'd be nice to get some South African horses here. I think at the top level, our South African horses will hold their own here. There's no doubt. So it would be lovely if something like that could happen in the future. You never know. We'll have to see.
Let's hope. Gary, I just want to come back to you. Brazen Force, we've seen him win. We watched Pig in Mud, unfortunately, not do his best today, but when will your next runner be now?
Jenny, more than likely, Brazen Force will be our next one. You're up, more than likely will be up in about 3 weeks' time, 2 to 3 weeks' time. And then we'll just take it from there. But I think our biggest challenge also to try and get Brazen over the line was we only had the 2 horses in full work at the time. I had Pig in Mud and Brazen Force, and Pig in Mud had come off a spelling farm at the time, so he was out of training, and he was about 3-4 weeks behind Brazen Force. And then he had the 2 to pair up to do track work with. I think that was our biggest challenge, to try, because he wasn't strong enough for Brazen, and Brazen was too strong for him, and I was starting to hurt and push Pig in Mud back in. I think that was our biggest challenge, but it's better now. We've got more horses in work, and as we build up a team, it'll get easier. But you know, Pig in Mud, we will work out. He's got a little niggle here and there. We'll sort out, and we'll take it from there. I'm sure he's a top horse that could win 3-4 races where his rating is, which is nice, and especially over the trip. The other Brazen Force is a lovely horse. I think there's a little feature that we might have in mind, and we'll just take it step by step, Julie. You know, we've got a beautiful filly that's nearly ready to roll that we're looking at putting together. So we keep the ball rolling and start building and just keep building.
Well, we'll keep watching from South Africa, guys. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the interview. It's always lovely chatting to you guys. I've missed talking to you, at least interviewing you. I know we chat regularly, but to interview you was always special. So we just wish you all the very best and keep the South African flag flying.
Trying to do the proud to be South African. Very
absolutely. Thanks, Gary. Thank you, Dean. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Gates open, racing. They all stepped away cleanly. Harry Hotpants, Comfort Girl, the Red Sea nearer the inside, all moving forward. Keysor and Exalted Ruth is on the go wider out. So too Brazen Force and Enlist. So plenty of wanting to get forward, which is not a surprise the way the track's been playing. And Brazen Force with his mouth wide open. Vorster allows him to really stride on. He'd probably go quicker if he could, but Vorster's got him under a decent hold, but he's still going quick enough to lead. Brazen Force sets up the speed over the Red Sea. Third position, Capricorn Ridge. 2 further back to Enlist, who settles on the outside of Exalted Ruth. 2 lengths further back, wide on the course, is Never Doubt Us from Keys or Harry Hotpants. Comfort Girl at the 1200, worse than midfield. 2 to Flow Meter, Azurius and Whiskey and Women brings up the rear. Down the side, and the leader, Brazen Force. For Gary and Dean Alexander, looking for their first win on Australian soil. Vorster has it travelling as smoothly as possible. He's still fighting with Vorster at the moment, with the mouth wide open. We can see his teeth almost. Second position, Capricorn Capricorn Ridge. The Red Seas had to sit in with cover, followed by Enlist. Never Doubt Us can't get on the track. Exalted Ruth, Whiskey and Women's now up to midfield, wider out, looking to improve further as they quicken. Harry Hot Pants, Comfort Girl travelling sweetly. She's got a back to follow, but she's going to have to come very wide as they sweep up to the bend. Then Keys or Flow Meter and Azurius. Brazen Force. Forster's still got a pretty decent hold on this fellow. He swings in a short margin on Capricorn Ridge. The Red Sea Enlist. Never Doubt Us. Comfort Girl winding up. Whiskey and Women. Brazen Force kept going. Still a length up his sleeve from Capricorn Ridge. Comfort Girl, she's digging in now. Then the Red Sea. Brazen Force wants the line. Comfort Girl looking to snatch victory from him, but can't do it. Brazen Force does enough to win. Lugged up the track in the final stages, but falls in Brazen Force over Comfort Girl.
Once again, thank you all for watching this week's edition of Breeding to Win. We look forward to seeing you again next weekend.